Welcome to this episode of Twin Talk.
Today we are actually here. I do that a lot.
We don't need actual.
I don't know why I say actually.
Qualifiers.
I do it a lot. Okay, let's do this again.
Hey everybody, this is Joni.
And I'm Cindy.
And this is
Twin Talk. We're identical twins, but even though we look alike, we are very different.
I live in Washington.
And I live in Alabama. But we both have very different careers. I run newspapers.
And I'm in the nuclear industry. Even with those different careers, we both have been very successful.
And we've both had some setbacks. So even though we live on separate sides of the country, we are going to use technology to bring us together to talk about a lot of the things that we really like.
Things that we find important, like professional development,
And leadership,
mental health,
parenting,
and some of our hobbies.
So please join us for
Twin
Twin
Talk.
Talk.
Hi everyone, this is Joni. On this episode of Twin Talk, we introduce you to Mandy Stokes, the world record holder for the largest alligator caught on the Alabama River right here in Cindy's backyard. Many people don't know that there is an alligator hunting season every year in the southeast part of the U.S. The waterways of Alabama make for a comfortable home to grow some really big gators. Alabama has an annual hunting season that not only brings people to the state for recreation and economic benefit, it also helps with population control of what can be a dangerous animal if it's living in your backyard.
Let's dig in. This is Mandy Stokes, and she is the one who caught this with her husband.
Yes, my team actually caught it. I didn't do a whole lot in the way of catching it, but I did kill it.
Oh, good. We want to hear that.
I was with my husband, my brother-in-law, and my niece and nephew, which were 16 and 14 at the time.
Wow, okay.
And this was in
2014. Mm-hmm.
So you get 2 weeks a year to hunt alligators. A lot of people don't know that, and they don't know that there even is an alligator hunting season.
And we don't have 2 full weeks for alligator season.
What is it?
It is 2 weekends in August. It comes in on a Thursday and goes out on Sunday morning, I think at daybreak.
So it's overnight?
It's Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night. So it's actually 6 nights, but it's over 2 week time. The hunts for alligators are extremely regulated. We are only issued a certain amount of tags, I want to say 260 throughout the state. In our area, it is only 50. I think the first alligator hunt was in 2011 here, and they have not increased the tag numbers from 50. There's never 50 alligators killed. Sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 30, but they at least usually get half of the tags filled.
Are there alligators in Alabama? I never knew that.
Many alligators in Alabama. This is the perfect environment here in the Black Belt, and particularly in West Central Alabama. The environment here is so perfect that it grew an alligator this size that experts didn't think would ever even exist. Because they are such aggressive animals, they're very territorial, they fight a lot. The bigger alligators will eat the baby alligators. So out of a clutch, I'm not sure what the percentage is that live, but it's not the majority of them from infancy on up. These alligators have such a large amount of options for food here. They feed on cattle, they feed on deer, they feed on, this one had a deer inside of him. They said squirrel, 2 ducks, and parts or remains of a cow or calf.
For our viewers, how big is this guy?
The state recognizes this alligator at 15 foot, 1,011 and a half pounds. The Safari Club International is the organization that declared him a world record. The state of Alabama will only recognize him as a state record. The Safari Club International recognized him as a world record, and they scored him. His is not necessarily a measurement, but his score was 15 foot 9 inches. Now, they get that by measuring different areas.
To the end of that?
No, they do measurements of head, and they do measurements of different parts of the body, and they make a score, which gives the total length.
So what's his name?
Well, we did. His name is Cecil, and I tell you why. Do you guys remember the story about the the lion that was killed in Africa by the dentist.
Oh, something like that.
Yes, okay, the dentist from the States went over, killed this big, beautiful lion, and the activists went nuts because he was hunting and he killed this, he must have been some type of record, I don't know, or I can't remember all the details now, but that was huge in the news, that particular story, and this big lion was named Cecil, and I'm like, well, perfect. We did what he wanted to do that night. From the time we hooked him the first time, he stayed under the water. The first time he was under the water, about 45 minutes, we kind of pulled off of him and we broke our lines. We didn't have but a couple on him. This was in the beginning of the night. It was shocking. We've never done this before, you know, so.
You had never alligator hunted before?
No.
This was your first time?
None of the 5 of us had ever put a hook in an alligator before that night.
Oh.
And this was him.
This guy.
This was the alligator.
Is that luck? Or?
It had something to do with it. We were in the right place at the right time. It was no skill involved.
Oh, okay.
No alligator skill. I mean,
Alligator.
my husband and my brother-in-law have been on this river their whole lives, and so some of the same techniques they use for fishing and different things, you know, obviously we used for this because we were using fishing poles. After we got him back on the line the second time, he stayed underneath our boat. And when, like, he's on the bottom of this slough, and you knew where he was because the lines were pointing, obviously, right at him from where we were sitting in the boat. He sat underneath our boat for an hour and a half. When he decided he needed oxygen, obviously, he walked across the bottom of the slough all the way across to the other side.
Taking you with him.
But anyway, he walked on the bottom of that slough all the way across to the other side where there was a lot of lily pads. Well, he went under those lily pads and obviously popped up under there for air because we couldn't see him. That's what I mean by we did what he wanted to do. My brother-in-law had saw a portion of his head under the water, but that distorts size so very much because we thought we had a 10, maybe 11-foot gator. It was not until we pulled him out of the water that we knew how big he was. So we tooled out of the slough and were able to pull the boat up on the side of the riverbank in an area and tried to put him in the boat. We had. We did. The 5 of us.
1,100 pounds.
The boat was a 17-foot aluminum boat. So when he was backing out of the lily pads, when I said we could see part of his head, I was ready to shoot. We could see his head coming out, and I pulled the trigger before he exposed his head above water. And the noise of the gun scared him. It startled him. It didn't scare him. I guess it startled him. And he pulled the boat across the slough. And we crashed into one of the cypress knots that was sticking out of the water. Everybody landed in the bottom of the boat. Once we got there, got stopped, and got our lights back on, we decided we would try one more time. But if we had any other incident like we had just experienced, we were going to let him go because the kids were in the boat with us. My brother-in-law found some trotline cord. We had run out of equipment, basically, because we'd lost a lot of hooks that night. Anyway, he found some trotline cord rolling around in the boat, and we had a couple treble hooks left, and he rigged it up with a weight on it. And Kevin, he lowers it down. He's in between John and I. John's holding the light. Kevin's lowering the treble hook, and I'm on the right side, and we're just looking in the water. He lowers it down, and he looked at me, and he said, "I got him." He was just as surprised as anybody else, you know. He said, "I got him." He had that alligator right there.
He got him.
Yeah. Wow.
He hooked him right there, and he lifted his head out of the water. The alligator never moved. And I pulled the trigger. When we finally got enough cell phone service to call anybody, all we could tell her is we got alligators tied to the side of the boat. You got to get to Shell Creek Landing right now and bring the kids, you know. That the game warden had arrived to try to help us load him or do whatever he could. And he called Big Daddy on the phone, and he said,
"Oh, Big Daddy."
And he said Big Daddy was doing his radio station live that morning at Roland Cooper where we weigh him in. He called Big Daddy, and he said, "Big Daddy, it's really likely we have another state record." There was a large crowd of people waiting
At the check station.
at the check
exciting,
station
isn't it?
because he was live on the radio when this started, when his show started, and he announced it, and half of Camden nearby was over there. The taxidermist that mounted him for us did cut out the meat that he thought would be good. But we did end up giving the meat away. We did not throw it away. We gave it away, and those guys ate it and said it was good.
And so what does this year look like?
We're just going to go out and have fun and hunt.
What have you changed, though, with your experience?
Lights. You need some really dependable lights.
Headlamps?
You can use headlamps. You can put the LED lights on the boat. You can. We like the hand lights.
Why night?
Yeah, why
That's when you can see their eyes. It's just hard to see an alligator during the day if they don't expose themselves. If they don't want to be seen, they're not going to be seen in the daytime. I mean, and that applies somewhat to the night, because we have hunted alligators that we'll see out in open water and kind of chase them across, follow them across. And if they find a patch of grass to get under, we won't ever see them again unless they want to be seen, I guess. They can hide very easily, but at night, you shine them with the spotlight to see their eyes, and you can locate them much easier that way.
So are there professional alligator hunters that come during that time? Or
We've seen a couple groups come in that they advertise to take people alligator hunting, and if you got a tag, you could hire them. They would come here if this is where you got your tag. I mean, what are you going to do if somebody beats your record? Well, I'm going to congratulate them. Well, I mean, what should I do? They say, well, do you think there's a bigger alligator out there? Why shouldn't there be? This one had a really good diet. Alligators are opportunists, so they eat on opportunity, not because they're hungry. I don't know that they ever really get hungry. If something swims by, sometimes they do. If something swims by, they eat it. It's an opportune meal. Yeah. Alligators, a lot like your big bucks that are killed, the record bucks and stuff, they don't get that big by exposing themselves to humans.
Yeah.
They do not get that big that way. There's a lot of backwater because of the dam here that's pushed upriver. And you don't necessarily have to have backwater because there's big alligators below the dam. The more places to hide, the bigger and the easier it's going to be for them to hide and get this big. Their biggest competition where we can't get is each other. We grew up around a lot of hunters. My dad did hunt. He didn't necessarily take us, me and my sister, hunting much. He didn't have any boys. But my uncles, which I had a lot of those, they were hog hunters, they were deer hunters. We were always exposed. And my sister and I did go hunting occasionally, but it just wasn't a passion of ours. When John and I met, my husband, he is an avid outdoorsman. He hunts and does anything outdoors. And so it just took off from there. And me and my husband and my brother-in-law have always hunted together. So the team was just perfect. The kids wanted to go because, it's alligator hunting, for God's sake.
For them,
Yeah. When we were going in that night, there was a boat leaving.
In that same area?
In the same slough. And I told the crew, I'm like, y'all, there's no alligators in there. They just left.
But they missed this.
They missed this guy.
And this is what was in there.
Is
Yeah,
it pretty
my gosh.
satisfying to know that you caught the biggest
Absolutely. Well, and it was, y'all, this was totally an inside joke. If you know me, you would understand fully. I told that day we were in there seeing the fancher gator, I said, I've got to do this. I said, because I'm going to catch one bigger. And sure enough.
What about being a woman? Is that
Well, it gives you a little bit more satisfaction. Of course it does. It is a little satisfying because the hunting and fishing industry is a man's world.
Yeah.
It is. So it's a little bit of more satisfaction being a woman. Mm-hmm. It has drawn a lot more attention for a woman to have killed it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. After hearing Mandy's story, we thought we would try to find gators nearby Cindy's house in Selma. Thanks for joining us this week for Twin Talk. On the next episode of Twin Talk, I share my love of barbecue. I'm practicing to be a true pit master. Like us and subscribe. We are at twin.fluencing on Instagram. On Facebook, we are Twin Talk, or you can email us at twinfluencing@gmail.com.